What's up, Trophy Whores? I've got a little editor's note here before the show. Unfortunately, usually I like to put something funny or insightful at the beginning of the show to kind of give you guys a direction on how things are going to go for the evening. But this week, unfortunately, we had some issues with my audio, with it dropping out while I was mainly doing my talking about what I've been playing, and it really just made the audio unusable because there had to be so much patching and filling that it would not have been great. So basically what we had to do is for the first half of the show, about the first hour and 5 minutes, we had to use the audio from our Twitch stream, which Matt sounds fine. I sound a little bit more echoey and further away. So unfortunately, the audio quality is not really where we want it to be. It's not ideal, but we still want to get you guys a show. And I got to tell you guys all about my Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind because I got a lot to say. But we basically decided the first half of the show to use the Twitch stream, and then after that, the second half of the show is us actually using my microphone, restarting a recording. So that should sound much better after the first hour and 5 minutes. But we want to get you guys a show, and hopefully, we appreciate you guys for understanding. Hopefully, you all still enjoy the show, and you guys are having a great week. But yeah, just want to throw that in there, and on with the show.
You are listening to Trophy Horse with your hosts, Tricky Nick, Alex, I Yield to No One, Sid, and Ender Phoenix.
Unfortunately, one of the effects of me hosting is that, the people watching us don't get the fancy music on the intro. But those of you who are live do get it. This is Trophy Wars episode 652. Once again, Tricky is not with us tonight. He is in the middle of basically moving his entire life. So he just needed another night off to get things settled. So hopefully I'm good enough for you folks. But you know who is good enough for you all? Alex. What's going on, Alex?
Well, Matt, I think you're definitely better than I am, and you know who's better than someone else? The Kentucky Wildcats are once again better than the Louisville Cardinals. You want to do the L's up? No, we do the L's down here. Go Cats.
Go Cats. Especially my cat, who is now taking residence under the Christmas tree.
Hey, you know what? Well, Cosmo was eating the plastic Christmas tree earlier because we don't do a real tree; we do a Christmas tree or a plastic one because it's just easier. But yeah, Narga can be a part of the UK fan base, the Kentucky Wildcats fan base. Since I'm assuming you don't have a college team, Matt, that you root for.
No, actually, my college didn't have a football team, so there's that.
Oh, well, this is basketball. What about basketball?
Oh, the Falcons were pretty popular, from what I understand. Oh no, wait, what's the No. Okay, so here's a little bit of background.
The NFL Falcons?
No. Here's a little bit of background. I went to St. Joseph's High School and St. Joseph's University, and I keep mixing up the two. My high school was Falcons. The university was the Hawks.
Okay, gotcha.
But I didn't care anyway. It was basketball.
Okay, fine. Well, then Narga can be a Kentucky Wildcat. Can join this fan base.
And like Cosmo, Narga does eat the plastic needles on our tree. So V was trying something new this year where she got a cat tunnel that goes around the tree, and he's been taking residence in the cat tunnel. So hopefully that keeps him away.
Nice. We actually we had a step stool, and it was kind of like between a step stool and a ladder that we used to like get stuff on the top of the tree, like the star. And Cosmo climbed up to the top of that, and like obviously these are steps made for humans, so him being a cat it's kind of ridiculous, like a slinky stretching up to get up these steps. But yeah, he's an athletic little boy.
Well, also good enough for us. Yield's here too. What's going on, Yield?
Oh, 5 more days is all I have left, and then I'm done for the year.
A little bit of a winter break.
Yeah, winter shutdown coming up.
Well, I hope during that shutdown you plan on fighting the Illuminates.
I did some of that already, and let me tell you, they're no joke.
Well, while y'all are fighting fictional Illuminates, Over here in New Jersey, we're fighting real Illuminates by all these drones that are flying all over the place that nobody can seem to identify.
Yeah, I heard that what the FBI was asking for help in identifying these, which is always a great sign.
It is crazy. So this has been going on since mid-November, and it started out with a few different notices. People are seeing things in the air that they're not sure of. And the problem is now you're creating a frenzy. Now everybody and their mother is out watching for drones in the middle of the night. Well, now what are people doing? They're seeing planes and they're reporting planes to the law enforcement saying, I see a drone. And they have to then take that goes to the state. Then the state passes it along with the FBI. And the FBI now have to track down all the flights and say, well, no, that was a plane. And people are going, no, it's a drone. It really was a drone.
I can hear it humming.
I'm surprised you don't have any New Yorkers going out there Independence Day style. You know, they have the news report in Independence Day when the ships show up. They're like, please do not fire your handguns at these ships. I'm surprised there's not New Yorkers out there with guns being like, all right, motherfucker, I don't know what you are, but I'm about to take you down.
If you go on social media, you're going to see a certain demographic of people who are advocating for citizens to take up their rifles and start shooting at drones that are, 500 feet in the air.
That sounds like something some hillbillies in Kentucky would do. That's some hillbilly bullshit right there.
That's fine as long as you don't live near a populated area.
Like I said, a certain demographic.
Because those bullets have to come back down.
But also, these drones are not small. Are they like car-sized?
That is some of the reports. More importantly is that they're not the quadcopters you're seeing hobbyists grab. The reports are indicating that these are fixed wing drones, and when you're talking fixed wing drones, these are things that look like the Predators that you see in,
I was gonna say,
in military. Yeah, but there's more models than just the Predators. That in and of itself brings a level of concern of saying, who the hell is operating these things? And I've always been one to posit, well, if they wanted to be secret, why are there lights on? Like, there's certain leaps of logic. They want to be secret.
Why would they be so large? Why wouldn't they be smaller?
Yeah, so that in and of itself is starting the rumor mill of what is actually happening. Are they ours? Are they a foreign entity? Are they UFOs? Are they aliens? I'm not going to say it's aliens, but maybe it's aliens.
I heard someone got arrested for that, like some Chinese guy, which is fueling the foreign thing.
So yeah, that happens. That happens more often than you'd actually believe. But just one person operating. The problem is these drones are staying in the air for like 5 hours, and law enforcement is having difficulty tracking them. You only have so many helicopters covering so much of the sky. But it's craziness. And to bring it back to gaming, the Illuminate drop in the middle of all this going, aliens. Okay. Maybe we start our own Helldiver community in real life.
There you go.
Which we'll get into that, I'm sure, very shortly. But what we will do is get into our trophies real quick, and then we can get into what we've been playing, which I know at least me and Yield definitely will include some Helldivers. Alex, I hope you'll be able to join in on the conversation. But Tricky is currently level 960 with 33,979 trophies and 980 platinums. Alex?
Oh, God damn it. You caught me looking at my fantasy basketball. Struggling this week. I'm dying. Apparently, Nikola Jokic decided to get 17 points when he was projected to get 40 on the 1 week where he plays one game. It's great. I'm getting killed.
I have no idea what you just said.
Well, Matt, you need to play some fantasy, my friend. Who knows? Maybe your fantasy basketball team can have orcs and monsters and giants and shit and trolls. Not the kind
I'd play that basketball game.
Yep. Oh, like the Monstars from Space Jam.
A monster basketball league is well overdue.
Well, don't steal the skills from Sean Bradley, because you're not going to get a whole lot out of that. But my trophies. Level 515, total trophy count of 10,373, and a platinum count of 184 in 183 games. And I don't have a new platinum trophy this week, but I do have a lot to say about the game I've been playing. A lot.
Okay. Yield, your trophies?
I am newly minted 523 with a trophy count of 10751 and a platinum count of 205. I got 5 this week.
All right. I am at a rotten 221 with 1,328 trophies and 0 platinum since I have not played any PlayStation this week. But I did get...
You know what, Matt? Rotten is subjective. It's all in your perspective.
Well, evidently, if there's people who care about trophies, it's pretty rotten.
You know what? Hey, you got some trophies in the not to spoil anything, but the game of the year. So go, Matt.
Well, I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
I did get a new achievement in MechWarrior 5 Clans. Full Metal Jacket, deal 10,000 damage with ballistic weapons. So there was that.
Do you have all the achievements in the first, I guess we should say, expansion for Elden Ring?
No, definitely not. I don't have all the achievements in the base Elden Ring.
Did you beat the Shadow of the Earth Tree?
No, I stagnated on that for a little bit. I feel like getting back to it, but those furnace golems kicking my ass one too many times. I was like, all right, I need a break.
Those goddamn furnace golems.
Sid,
I'm with you there, Matt. I'm right there with you.
Getting nuked halfway across the map is rough. Sid,
hey,
is that
fast travel? Who needs fast travel when you have furnace golems?
Yeah, it automatically warps me back to my last point. Sid is at level 120 with 340 trophies and 4 platinums. And, I will take a second and want to give a special, not a shout out, but a kind of a reminder that young Sophie's birthday was this past week. So, much love to Sid and his family and everything that they've endured. So again, love you guys. Just wanted to put that out there. In chat, we got Saber. Will is asking, where's Tricky Mick? If you were here at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that Tricky is still in the process of moving. So he's there taking care of himself, doing things tonight. Kalai, I have not 100%ed any game. Legitimately, there's some Steam games that have one achievement and they count. I wish I could remove them from my profile.
That's still legitimate. Like they have one achievement. Does that just beat the game?
I don't remember. If I go to my Steam profile, I could probably capture it real quick because it is like a stain on my profile. Okay, 3 perfect games is what they consider. Counter-Strike 2, which has one achievement, which is weird. A game called Shatterline, which has one achievement, and it was complete the intro mission. This is Counter-Strike 2 is that one. And there is another game called Drop That Beat Like an Ugly Baby, where it's...
I like the name of this game already.
I'll have to show you a video. It was along the lines of there was a game called A Reckless Disregard for Gravity. It's like a very stylized game where you literally are like free falling and you have to collect points. It's a very cool video game series. But this is one that they came up with, and again, there's 3 games I have that are perfect games because they only have one achievement, and basically you get it for logging into the game.
I don't see why that's a stain on your. I mean, that's 300%. You take those, Matt. We take those victories.
I've got a reputation to upkeep that I don't do perfect games.
No, you don't. You don't care about trophies. It doesn't mean you don't do perfect games, or you don't get platinum trophies. It means when the situation comes along, then it'll happen. But you're not, out there trying to 100% every game you play. So I don't see it as a stain. I just see it as you playing the games.
Okay. You know what? I'll accept that. I appreciate your support and showing me the light of my...
Because here's the thing, Matt. Are you not going to play those games just because they have those one achievements that you get easily?
Not actively. It's not like I'm looking for those games.
See, it's like saying, I'm not going to play Mario Wonder because pressing start gives me a trophy or the only trophy in the game. No, you still would play Super Mario Wonder.
Fair enough. But speaking of games that we're playing, Alex, what have you been playing this week?
Oh God, you're gonna make me go first.
Do you want to
Y'all
go?
want to go? Do y'all want to go first? Because I'm gonna go long winded on the one main game I've been playing.
Okay, well let's have you been playing Helldivers 2?
Yes.
Okay.
I played one match last night.
Then
I had not. For those who don't know, there was a recent update, probably the second biggest update or one of the two big updates they've released beyond just the war bonds, and that was they brought the third faction into the game, the Illuminates, and they also brought in a vehicle, a 4-person vehicle, which I haven't played a ton with, but so yeah, we'll start with this.
I haven't even found it yet.
Is it a stratagem, or do you just find it on the map?
For right now, you can just find them on the map, but eventually I believe it'll be a stratagem.
Yeah, because it's only the one map that they have right now that the Illuminate are on.
Yeah, because they're only in one sector right now.
But let's save this for after all three of us have gone and we all can go into a Helldivers 2 fest.
All right. I mean, I can go into the one other game I've been playing.
Okay.
You want me to? Okay. So, for the first time, I did a midnight release, or as we would call it, a midnight release of a game. Pre-ordered it, and as soon as I could play it on midnight, last Wednesday into Thursday, I most certainly did. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Rita's Rewind. The best way I can describe this game, the best word I can use is disappointing. So if anyone is out there like, oh man, this is like Shredder's Revenge, but with Power Rangers. No, it's not. Digital Eclipse, they were the developers of this. I would have loved to have seen what Tribute Games could have done with this. Tribute Games would be the developer of Shredder's Revenge, but this game, same genre of game, but I think what's really going to hurt a lot of games like this is that Shredder's Revenge and Street of Rage 4 exist because those games are fantastic. This game, not in that conversation. But there is positives, there are negatives. I'll talk all about that. So the story is basically a lot like what we saw in the Netflix special, the 30th anniversary Once and Always that came out last year. And they even have a trophy in the game. When you beat the final boss, it's a silver trophy called Once and Always. So they are definitely referencing that. So what happens is Rita from the future, who has kind of perfected herself by becoming a robot. She's going back in time to help herself in the past, regular Rita Repulsa, destroy the Power Rangers before they become the Power Rangers. So this is about the formation of the Power Rangers when it starts out. And that's basically the story. There are 15 levels, and they're about each chapter consists of 3 levels. So basically it's like hey, instead of Shredder's Revenge, where you get to, there's a level, there's a boss at the end. There's a level, there's a boss at the end. This is more like a kind of like a cartoon, a bunch of cartoons where it's like you have a main antagonist or, sometimes 2 antagonists as part of a chapter, and you'll fight those or see them at different points over the course of 3 chapters. So while they do over the course introduce multiple monsters sometimes into a chapter, it's generally one main monster in the fold, which I think is kind of a missed opportunity. There are only 15 levels, which doesn't take that long to get through. And I really think that they kind of left a lot on the table where they could add more monsters in. Like the Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I think consist of the first 3 seasons. So there's a ton of stuff they could have put in here. And I really think that what they could have done, again, is this the Turtles formula, is Shredder's Revenge. You have a level, you fight a boss in the end. Yeah, you have a level, you fight a boss in the end. It's kind of like what they did in the Super Nintendo game, because this game itself, from the start, it's very nostalgic. Obviously, I think the music is one of the high points of this game. I think the music is very good. But from the start, when the Digital Eclipse logo comes on, it immediately turns to an old school TV where it's like, oh, set it to channel 3 to play your game. It's not like HDMI 1, HDMI 2, it's channel 3. And very much from the start, the game looks like a Super Nintendo game, almost like it's an homage to that. Even though they have an anime style snappy intro, the intro is very good. To the game, the intro cutscene, which is all one of the things that is comparable to the Shredder's Revenge one. I think they both have very good intro movies before you get to the start screen. So this game, I think it needs to be longer. First and foremost, they need to have more of the monsters in there. Even though I do like the monsters that they did pick, they picked some of the ones obviously you would expect to be in there, like Mr. Bones, Skoldar. But there's also a few more ones that you wouldn't think of to put first in a game. There's no King Sphinx, there's no Nasty Knight, there's no Pudgy Pig. They put a few others in there that you wouldn't think first to put in a game, and I do actually like their inclusion because these are monsters you don't really see a ton in the video games, whereas you might see King Sphinx more often. So, but I definitely do think DLC and more levels and introducing more of the monsters would help make this game feel a little bit more full, because again, you have so much history with all the monsters. You could just put a ton in here, and I think that would be a lot of fun. Gameplay, I've seen people complain about it being a little bit more sluggish. There'd be some that the controls aren't super responsive, and I don't agree with that. There's moments where you have like enemies will be doing attacks, and you have to like jump over things really quickly in quick succession. And I think that I think the controls work well. They're not as like fast, or they're not as like free flowing, or there's not as good of a flow to them as there is to say Shredder's Revenge or Street Rage 4. Like the combat systems in those two games are better than this one. This one does go slower than those, but in the end, I think it's fine. I don't think there's too much of a delay in the fighting, although there is a dodge button where you like circle is your dodge button where you kind of flip out of the way. I did have issues with that where I would flip out of the way, but then flip back to where I was doing, and I wasn't like going mad on the press the dodge button. I was just flip back and then flip forward back where I was. So I did have a little bit of issues with the dodge, but again, kind of one of the main themes of this game is it's really shallow. Like there's only one unlockable in this game. So at first you can only pick from the 5 Rangers, and once you beat the game, you can get Tommy as a Ranger, Tommy the Dragon Zord. So the only thing you get, the only unlockable the entire game is once you beat it, is Tommy. The move list that you have to start the game is the same move list you have throughout the entire game. It's not that deep, and you don't earn any new moves. You don't gain experience. There's no RPG elements. The Ranger that you have at the beginning of the game is the Ranger you have at the end of the game. So that is another thing that makes the game feel a little bit shallow. And so the one of the big things that's different about the Power Rangers than is the Turtles is that you have the Zords. You have to account for the Zords because that has to be a part of your chunk of gameplay. And so some of the levels that are in there that you control the Zords, you actually play more as the individual Zords than you do as the Megazord, which is really weird because there are run and gun shoot 'em up levels that you play as like the Mastodon or the Triceratops or the Pterodactyl, like whichever one you want to be. Tyrannosaurus, Sabretooth. Sorry, I had to say them all. Power Rangers fan. But they're run and gun levels, almost like arcade style levels. And I know the visual style they were going for, but first and foremost, they look kind of ugly. Like most of the rest of the game looks pretty good, with the retro style they were trying to go for. The Zord levels, though, they look kind of ugly, and I'm not a huge fan of the art style in that scenario. And and some of them, like, they last a long time playing as the Zords. And again, there's not like, from what I remember, in the cartoon, a ton of sections where the Zords are just going crazy, and it's just them, like this whole half of this episode is just the Mastodon tearing ass down the street and taking down enemies. No, it's just like these long run and gun sections that you kind of ham fist into the game. They don't look that great. The gameplay's not that fun, and there are some weird difficulty spikes when you get later in the game. There's only 3 levels where that you have the run and gun Zord levels, but they're the last 2 of the 3, like weird difficulty spikes because of certain things they introduce into there. So that makes them not as fun. If they were shorter, I'd be fine with them. But again, the mere fact that these segments are longer than the Megazord, which you play as the Megazord 3 times at the end of the 1st, 3rd, and 5th chapters, and not the end of the 5th chapter. I guess I should say level 14 out of 15 you play as the Megazord. And they basically, the fights with the Megazord and the monsters, it's cool. The one good thing is your view is basically from the cockpit what the Rangers see out. Which, I mean, you're playing as Power Ranger. That's what you would see if you were fighting the monster, if you were sitting in the Megazord. So I understand why they went in perspective. But the fight itself is like a watered down punch out fight, where basically you're trying to build up to get the Megazord, because once you get the Megazord, basically the fight's over. And so you do that by, like, the enemies have a few attacks that you can dodge, but what you're basically doing is when they get up close for close combat, you're alternating square X for your punch combos, left, right, to build up segments of the bar at the top of the screen, which is your sword. It's shown as a little sword icon. And once you build up all 3 of those segments, you get access to the Power Sword. There's a little small cutscene, and then you basically can go finish off the boss. The boss, it's not like once you get the sword, you become all powerful. Basically, it becomes like a button mashing event once you get the sword, because the monsters is done at that point. And I kind of get that because, I mean, if you watch Once and Always, once the Megazord gets the sword, Snizzard, who is the final big monster in that movie, is basically done. I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched some of the Power Rangers cartoons, and I don't remember how much they were freely able to use the sword back then. But
it does kind of make sense for the sword to be like the final knockout blow, but on the hard and the headache difficulty settings, which are the two highest difficulty settings, you don't even like the monster doesn't even die or like blow up or anything. You don't even swing the sword to cut them in half. It's basically like you power it up and then they like fall to their knee and then it's done. Like it's just kind of very underwhelming in that regard. So, I mean, the Megazord fights overall, the Zord sections are too long and not a lot of fun. With weird difficulty spikes. The Megazord sections are really watered down and also just seemingly kind of not a lot of fun either. I mean, I don't know really what complexity I expected for those, but I feel like you could have done better with those. And then one of the other points I'll make is the final boss fight on hard. It's kind of like if you ever played The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, it's kind of like a volleyball match where you have to hit a projectile back and forth between you and the final boss in order to open up a window where you can then go attack the final boss. But on hard, instead of making anything difficult, they basically just have you continue to do that, how to try to focus on the projectile to hit it back, 3-4 times just to break a shield. And they add like 8 to 10 putties coming after you. So it's really stupid because it's not difficult. It's just they give you two tasks that don't work well together. You're defending yourself against the putties, and you then also have to time the shots back. So, like again, those don't work well together because you're constantly having to defend yourself or dodge it out of the way. But the way the putties attack you and swarm you, it's a much different and you can't really focus on hitting the projectile back. So those two kind of like, it's asking you two things at once, but it's really hard to manage both of those. And it's just simply because you're mobbed by the putties. It's really dumb. The final boss fight itself is underwhelming, but on hard, it's really fucking stupid. It's really just, it's stupidly hard. I will say positives about this game. The where you're the Rangers, you control the Rangers and going through Angel Grove and fighting the putties and stuff. That's fine. It's fine. I wish there were more of it. I wish there were more levels and more bosses. I do like the monsters they included, but I wish there were more of them. So basically, I mean, what I want more out of this game is more of the Ranger fighting and less of the Zord and Megazord. I mean, I would want more Megazord, but also at the same time make it better, because I don't feel like the Zord and Megazord parts are the weakest part of this game, and the Ranger fighting parts, side-scrolling parts, are the best part of this game. So hopefully they release DLC for the game. I like the SAS art style, and like I said, I like the core mechanics of the fighting in the game, even if it's more bare bones than Shredder's Revenge. But it was Digital Eclipse definitely missed an opportunity with this game because it could definitely be a lot better, a lot better. So.
I'm looking on Steam page and all the reviews are mixed currently, which brings me to a couple different questions I have. Being that it's a multiplayer game, and then there's going to be sections where you can
play six Rangers at once.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, I don't know if you've played it with anybody else, but now that confuses me that there's like dedicated sections to the Zords. Do you know if
you can have 3 Zords on screen at the same time?
Yeah.
So here's how I know that, because for one of the trophies to defeat the Green Ranger without getting damaged, a little spoiler, Green Ranger is one of the boss fights. I connected 3 controllers, and I had basically I was controlling all 3 controllers. So basically what I did was I was like, you can do a taunt move in the game, which is square, or sorry, not square, it's triangle on the PlayStation. And you can just spam that to fill up your super meter. Every character has a super move, and like for Tommy, for instance, he'll call down the Dragon Zord to shoot a bunch of rockets onto the level, and that'll wipe out all the enemies. And each character has their own different variation. It's the same attack, but a different variation. Like one of them does lightning, one of them does fire. That's the Red Ranger. Mastodon does ice. So it's the same attack, just a different variation on that. So I basically had 3 controllers in, 3 players on screen. And I used those. I built up all super attacks for 3, and then one after the other, I just used the super attacks. Now the bosses at some points will become invulnerable, so you can't just like cheese them. They will have attacks they can protect themselves, and you'll have to dodge for all the attacks over before they will become vulnerable again. All of that long shit to say. Basically, I had 3 controllers in, and we moved into the next area, which was going to be the then fight against the Dragon Zord, which is one of the running gun sections, and I had three the Zords on screen at once.
Okay, so obviously that's allows for a level of multiplay, but when you combine to become the Megazord, is it just like one person controlling it at that point?
I would have to assume so. I didn't do multiplayer with the Megazord, but I would have to say that it's probably just one person controlling, because you can't like have one person control the left arm, one person control the right arm. Like, yeah.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
And then I remember in the show, you know, the sword was always the trump card that the team would call down, and that
which
would
they
basically
like.
finish
It's cool.
the fight.
It's cool. It's cool they would do a cutscene for that. I do like how there's a cutscene, but again, the fact that you don't really finish off the enemies, they just kind of kneel down. Now on the easier levels, I went through the game on easy. Then I beat the game on hard, and now I'm doing Headache, which is the hardest difficulty, but or the biggest challenge, because you have no continue. So you have 3 lives per continue, and on Headache you don't have any continues to use. So once you use your 3 lives in a level, you're done. But on easy, the monster literally like exploded. But when I got to hard and Headache, the monster just kneels down, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, yeah. So I get the sword and how they use it, but the fact that it's not a bigger boom, like a bigger like crescendo to the fight is really, I mean, that's just more like frosting on the cake that this is how disappointing these sections are.
Yeah, well, in the show, the Rangers would smack the monster of the week with the sword, and they'd be like, they'd spin around and face the camera, and the monster in the background would fall down, and a giant explosion would happen. And you're telling me we get none of that?
No, and on hard and there's definitely not the theatrics of that. Like I said, the one on easier difficulty, and I didn't play normal. It's the only difficulty I haven't played on yet. On normal, or sorry, on easy, they do kind of explode, but on hard and Headache, and I don't know why it's this way, they literally just kneel down. So you get to the end of the first level, and Goldar is the first enemy you have to fight, and it's like, oh, he's just gonna kneel down and not do anything. Like, I understand the Dragon Zord doing that, because Dragon Zord joins your team after that, and you don't destroy the Dragon Zord, but with Goldar, it's like, blow his ass up. So that is very underwhelming. It's a very underwhelming finish to the Megazord fights.
Well, that is disappointing overall, because yes, like you, I was looking towards this game, but I started seeing the mixed reviews come in, and I said, maybe I'll wait for a bigger sale.
And here's where DLC is good, because they do have the opportunity to improve this game. Now, the base game, they can't change like things. They can't, go back and fix the Zord levels, in my opinion, because I'm not a huge fan of the Zord levels. They can't change those. But what they can do is they can go in and add more Ranger levels, because I think, again, more levels, more bosses. Like, this game is feeding off nostalgia. If you want to play this game, it's not for the fight mechanics, it's because it's Power Rangers. You want to play as the Power Rangers. So you can still give people that nostalgia. You can still feed into it. And again, the core fighting system is fine. It's not like super combo heavy. Like, there are trophies for combos, but beyond, it's not super combo focused like, say, Street Rage 4. So, but they can still improve the game by adding more to it and through DLC. But yeah, I mean, I would really love to see what Tribute Games can do with the Power Rangers game, because again, the Shredder's Revenge was Tribute Games and Nickelodeon. This is Hasbro and Digital Eclipse. So obviously Hasbro owns the property. I would love for them to do. I don't think we'll see a Tribute Games Power Rangers game. I think that they, this, and who knows? You never know when you're going to get another Power Rangers beat 'em up. Like, again, we got some on the Genesis and the SNES, but in the meantime, we got like fighting games for the Rangers, and I don't know. It's really disappointing, because this is like, even if we never got another side-scrolling beat 'em up from the Turtles universe, like, we could live with Shredder's Revenge. Like, that would be like, that's like a forever. That game will stand the test of time. It'll be amazing forever. This game, it's disappointing, because you never know if this is going to be your last shot at a Power Rangers beat 'em up. So, look, I encourage, if people have the money to spend and they still want to play it, I encourage people to play it to so that they can form their own opinion. There are some fun levels that you play as the Rangers. There are some good boss fights. But overall, like, I really think that, like I said, the main critique of this game is it's disappointing, because it could have been so much better.
Yeah, fair enough. Yield, hopefully you have something more exciting, or I should say more positive to give us.
Well, so let's see here. I've been playing some Treasure Hunter Simulator. Been playing some Bomb Fest. Played some Flat Out 4, Total Insanity. Played some Lawnmower Simulator. And played some Tunic. Those all were the 5 platinums I got this week.
I think Yield, your job ought to be real concerned because with all these simulator games you're playing, it seems like you're looking for a new job.
Maybe.
I don't actually. We're joking. I don't mean to get Yield in any trouble if some of his coworkers listen to this, but
they don't care. They're probably looking for jobs too.
glad we didn't play games.
He said 2. That confirms it, folks.
Played some Mutant Football League. Played a little bit of World of Warship Legends. Played some Rocket League. Fired up Helldivers Friday night because it was still downloading Thursday.
Which I do think we need to say is, I've been checking the number of people playing Helldivers. Before this update, it was like under 30,000 whenever I was on. This update, I saw over 200,000 people playing. So this update did actually bring people back to the game.
I didn't get a chance to play it Thursday because by the time it got done downloading and updating, it was too close for me going to bed. So Friday, me and the brain played for, I don't know, like 3 hours. And those Illuminates are no joke. I mean, we were playing on a 6 and just I haven't found the right weapon combo yet because we were just getting wrecked. We finally turned it down to 4 and we were able to get missions done, but we were still getting wrecked. And then I fired up Star Wars Outlaws Tuesday. I think I played it a lot yesterday and today, and that's it. I've kind of been playing a lot of games this week.
So I'll go into the Star Wars Outlaws first, so you and I can banter a little there.
All right.
I'm still putzing around on Tatooine, and my problem is on the PC, there's something going on that the game just crashes randomly. I know it's about to happen because my CPU, my GPU, everything ramps up to 100%. My fans are going crazy, and I go, here comes a crash, and boot it out to desktop. So it makes progressing in the game a little frustrating, but I'm still having fun with it. And there's a section where I have to go in and slice an Imperial terminal, and there's like 2 stormtroopers guarding the entrance. And I have to like draw one away or, sneak in there and get it done real quick. But I've been getting arrested every time, and I'm losing like 600 credits a pop. I'm like, that's unsustainable. I can't keep doing that. So I have to figure out the best way to get that done.
I haven't even left the first planet yet.
The first planet's so familiar. I'm at that point where it's like, maybe I just want to go back there and finish some stuff. But the problem is that they equipment lock you out of certain things. You can't do stuff until you go to other planets and get new equipment.
I think I'm about at that point. Every time I've decided that, okay, I think it's time for me to continue on with the story mission, and go leave the planet and do the next story mission. I'm like, oh, I can do this side quest before I leave. Let's do that. I know I'm going to have to come back anyway because there's treasure chests I can't get to because I don't have the right weapons and yada yada blah blah blah. And so, but I'm like, oh, but I know I can finish this. Let's finish that. And I've been doing all of that. So the time is coming to leave the planet, but I'm just kind of meandering around on what is it? Tashara? Just Tashara. Yeah, I'm just bebopping around there, having some fun.
Yeah, I'm having fun on Tatooine. The problem is it's very far between fast travel points, and my reputation with the Hutts isn't good, and I keep trying to do stuff to get reputation up with them, but then other things pop up and then I get knocked down for intruding on their area. So I'm like, all right, I got to do something to be able to increase my reputation. So I may go off planet to another planet and maybe try to build my reputation there, so I'm not trespassing on their areas so much.
Gotcha.
So, I'll continue playing it. I'm still having fun. It's still fun, sneaking around. I realized I cannot insta knockout Gamorrean guards. You know, I'll distract one and I'll sneak up behind them, and it doesn't give me the button prompt to knock them out. Like,
They're big boys.
That's a problem.
They're large. They're large creatures.
Yeah,
I guess you got to shoot them or stun them.
Yeah, but that's my issue is, you know, in a game where you go up and you bop a stormtrooper on the top of the head and they get knocked out, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. And Tricky is in chat. He says it's a skill you get later in the game. All right, so I have to make some progress.
Spoilers.
At this point, if I haven't gotten to that part of the game, oh well.
I figured it would probably be an ability you get later.
Okay, good, because that they're making it difficult to sneak around some of the hut areas. I also put some more time into Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I'm going around the Ice Fortress, just learning new echoes, seeing different ways to defeat other echoes. You know, I have an electric and an ice wizrobe. And what you have, you're in an area where you're on like floating platforms and you've got keys flying around and I can't get them. So I put up the ice wizrobe who hits the keys with an ice blast, and then the keys falls into the abyss, killing them. Made it very easy. And I also went back and started putting more time into Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, the remake that came out this year.
Oh, such a good game.
You know, the more I'm playing it, the more and more fun I'm having, because I finally got my third companion. And initially I'm annoyed because I feel like she doesn't do very much, and her attack is very frustrating, where you go to do the body slam and you have to move the icon or the crosshairs into the target. And with the Joy-Con, I don't know what it is with the acceleration, but I like tap the Joy-Con lightly and it flies off way off out of target. So, you know, I was doing a boss battle and I kept missing. I was very frustrated. But her Gust Gale ability to knock like multiple people out at once has been a godsend for some fights. So I'm exploring that. I'm going around. I'm getting to the point where, you know, mushrooms that heal 5 hit points aren't doing great. And then I'm starting to get to other items. My problem was I spent a lot of coins on badges, and I got to a point where I had to pay 64 coins to get a tip on what to do next. And I had like 2 coins. And I was frustrated because I had to then start going around fighting enemies to try to get that. But, you know, I got the badge that allows you to kill easy enemies just by hitting them with a hammer outside of combat. But that nets you like 1 coin. So I looked up a guide and found that there was an item you can buy in Rogue Town, and then you go over to Petalburg, sell it for a profit, and then just rinse, repeat back and forth. So got me my coins there pretty quickly. I have now reached the 3rd area in that game, Glitzville, Glitzburg, something like that. And, you know, that's where I took a break for there right now. Also put more time into Battlefield 2042. Just, again, you know, when I want a game, I don't need to think too hard. I just go out there and I run some conquest missions. Did some more Mech Warrior 5's clan, just continuing on the story, earning new mechs, starting to modify them a little bit more. In this game, what you could do is you buy like these pods that go on mechs, and you could replace torsos and arms, and gives you some customizability there. My buddy Steve and I beat Space Marine 2. I couldn't remember if I announced that last week or if that happened within the last week, but we finally beat that. And, you know, it was a really good single player story. I enjoyed it. And if you guys haven't seen, Amazon put out the series Secret Level, which is just a take on video games. It's CGI animation, but there is a Space Marine episode. Episodes aren't super long, like maybe 10 to 15 minutes each. So if you haven't seen it, you know, definitely check it out. I also played a little bit more Tunic, but I keep getting schooled when I go into certain areas, and I have no idea where I'm going or what I'm doing. So I'm just exploring at my leisure. And then, yes, finally, for us all to kind of discuss Helldivers 2. So at the Game Awards this past week, we're sitting there watching, and I forget what his in-game name is, like John Soldierman or something like that. The guy who you see at the opening animation of Helldivers was on stage at the Game Awards in his full getup. And he sits down and he goes, I wish I could bring you better news, but we're in trouble. The Illuminate have returned. And me and my friends are watching it going, oh, really? Okay. And he goes, we need your help to defend. We need you right now. And we said, wait, what? Then suddenly Steam started updating and we're, logging into the game. And sure enough, we're all going to the planet trying to defend. And very much the same experience you had, Yield. That at level 4, we were getting our asses kicked.
Yeah, I mean, it's no joke, man. I kept texting the guys that we normally play with, and I'm like, man, this is no joke. This is tough.
Part of it, I'm wondering, it's like, okay, I've never played the first one. I don't know what they're weak to. I don't know what to do about it. So we're just experimenting. The most success I've had so far was the Scorcher. It gives me enough shots to hit them. It's fast enough to hit them because I was using, I forget, it's the weapon right next to the crossbow on the selection screen, but it's like a sniper that shoots explosive shots. Just too slow to hit any of the big guys. But the Scorcher I was doing well with. The Flamethrower is good for the voteless. And the Orbital Laser, which I think Alex had previously said is the most powerful weapon in the game, was good for the Harvesters. As far as the what are they called? The guys who fly around, the actual Illuminate. I don't remember.
I don't know, but they're a pain in the butt.
They are. I really, for them, it was the Scorcher, which got me some mild level of success.
I was using I'd settled on the Purifier. I think that's what it's called. The plasma rifle. I had settled on that, and I was using the Guard Dog Rover.
So also my level of luck was I had spent, before the Game Awards, I spent all of my medals because I was tired of logging in and getting zeroed out because I was maxed out. And then the very next day, they announced the new Warbot, which has a flame sentry.
My buddy did that. He had, I don't know, like 150, and he was trying to finish out the last one. He's like, all right, I'll just buy whatever I can buy, and bought a bunch of stuff, and then the new Warbond dropped. So I felt kind of bad for him. I had roughly like 100, and I was just going to be like, I'll stockpile till I get around, 180, 200, and then I'll just start buying some more stuff. And the new Warbond dropped, and I'm like, well, let's start spending some more medals in this one.
Yeah, so I ended up picking up the Warbond. I bought that forward-facing shield, which is neat until you realize you can only use it with a one-handed weapon. So I'm still trying to make best use out of that. The grenade launcher really doesn't do much for you in those situations. And the I tried using the Senator, the Magnum.
Yeah.
And that is okay, but they just still swarm you too fast. The voteless are just all over.
I always run with the grenade pistol. I switched over to what is it? The Thresher? The sawing off shotgun. So I was carrying that, And I was carrying the breaker. Don't do bad. The problem is it's got so few cartridges in it that you just mow through it. But the breaker wasn't doing too bad. It's just you go through ammo too fast. So I ended up, like I said, using the purifier, the thresher. Anyway, the sawing off shotgun, and I was using a rover guard dog to help kill the voteless and also the flying guys if I could get close enough to them. And the 500K to take out the grounded spaceship bases, quote unquote, here, and the commando, because they would take out the harvesters. I'm thinking the harvesters must be the giant 3-legged, 4-legged things that walk and have a shield. Okay. If you fire all 4 rockets at them, most of the time that's enough to take it out. 2 to bust the shield and the other 2 to take it down. Unless you can catch him without a shield on, then it only takes a couple. That's what I was rocking, because the commando respawns relatively quickly, so I could use it and then throw it aside and call down a new one. But I'm still playing. I still got to find the I don't want to say perfect, but
an effective build.
Yeah, the effective build that works for my style of gameplay, and I haven't quite found it yet, which is fun.
And having a level of experimentation is good for this game, which has, had its issues with meta builds and things like that. And, for me, my issue is I go to the spawning spaceships and you have to take the shields down first before you can grenade them. And I don't know what's going on or if I'm just messing it up because I'm getting swarmed, but I've tossed a grenade up the ramp multiple times and it has not destroyed the ship. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or
just tossing a grenade up there. Do it.
I thought so.
Oh, I don't know. I've destroyed them all from a distance by either I was destroying a monolith and had to call in a hell bomb and caught it with a hell bomb, or I've hit it with a precision strike because I took its shield down and then threw out a precision strike. The most effective way that I have found it is either the laser or a 500K, because when the 500K hits, it takes out the shield and blows it up.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what me and the brain found out, because there was one round that I didn't bring anything super heavy, and so I couldn't destroy them, and I was annoyed with myself for not thinking like that because I was trying a totally different build. But yeah, 500K bomb wipes them out.
Okay.
And the precision strike will also wipe out the harvester, but you got to have its shield down or catch it with its shield down. Otherwise, the precision strike will just take out the shield. It won't.
And being precision, you better be on point with that because they tend to move around.
Yes.
Alex, any war stories on your fighting the Illuminate?
I've only played one round, and obviously with a new enemy, there are new challenges. You learn how to, because they all play differently. So you got to figure out what's the best way to, attack these creatures. Now, I'm different from you all, and then I've pretty much stuck with the same gun for the longest time. The Jar 5 Dominator is something I've carried for the longest time, and it worked well enough against the automatons and the Terminids, and I just rolled with it against the Illuminates. Not saying it's the best gun to use, but I'm just so used to using it that it just seemed to work well enough for me. The Voteless, for anyone who wants to picture this, excuse me, they're like mind-controlled, like zombified humans almost. They're like mind-controlled creatures that just run after you like without a second thought. Think like a zombie movie. I'm not saying they're exactly zombies, but they just swarm you and they come after you with relentless pursuit. So that's kind of the first thing I thought of. So it's like this enlightened, intelligent race, the Illuminates, and they use like all these like the Voteless to do like the grunt work where they just send waves and waves after you. And like every time I was turning around in this game, when I first started out, there was another wave of them. Turn the other way. Oh, another wave of them. So they're definitely swarmers, if nothing else. And so first I did an extreme mission, at difficulty 6. Got out of there. I mean, we had like only a couple respawns left, or reinforcements, I should say, since this is Helldivers. But we got the mission done. Actually, no, we died. We completed the mission, but we did not extract. We died. So I can totally understand where y'all are coming from, saying the difficulty is up there. So, I mean, yeah, it's all about finding the best way, like how the enemies attack you, because obviously there's a lot of more flying enemies than there are. I mean, yes, the Terminids have flying, bugs, but they're not they're shriekers. But this I mean, there's guys with jetpacks, there's flying machines that come after you. Like there's a lot more seemingly in the air to combat against these guys. Plus you have on the ground, just the mindless drones that come against you. So having only played one round, the map that we have in there is like an urban round, which is the theme of the new war bond, and it's very much like close quarters, tight, very very dense. So obviously it's easy to get crowded and fall into a trap. But I mean, I enjoyed playing it because again, I think it's much different than the Terminids and the automatons, and obviously, like I said, bringing in this third faction definitely reinvigorated interest in this game because a lot of people came back to play it. We'll have to see how long people stay, but yeah, as far as the challenge goes, I mean, they definitely bring their own challenge. So I'm excited to play more into. Finally, for the longest time, granted, I'm coming doing one more run of Power Rangers, and then after that, I'm really not planning on buying anything right away. So it's probably going to be Helldivers. So I might have a little bit more to say next week, but no, I mean, I think they're a good addition to the game, and it's nice to see that they've teased them for so long. It's finally good to have them back, and again, to provide a different challenge than the other two factions, because what's the point of having all the factions play the same?
And of course, I'm calling it now because right now the major order is for us to defend against their push on a single planet. We're not going to win this one. Joel's going to come in there and put in some modifier that even if
here's the thing, we failed our last major order, or one of the last two.
And I think we're going to fail this one too.
You have to be careful though, because that's not stopped Joel before, or the game master, whoever. I think they hired a second game master, so who knows if it's Joel calling the shots here. But we defeated the automatons, and then they brought them back on the map. They had a big offensive surge, and look, they're back. So it doesn't mean we can't win this, and they can't just come back stronger. They're like, oh, you guys defended their push. They underestimated you. Now they brought more of their forces. I mean, they can easily overcome that. They want to be careful in giving us major orders that we can't win, because if you do that, if at any point I feel like in this game, and there have been major orders I feel like we were meant to fail, but you got to be careful with that, because if you have people do these major orders and they fail, that leaves a real bad taste in people's mouth, and you now have a surge of people playing again. I think you want to stay away from that. You don't want to make it obvious, because if people catch on to that, you're going to cause some real trouble for yourself.
Fair enough. With that said, I still think there's going to be something else, because there's a lot of, actually there were people in Reddit, in the subreddit, complaining that these aren't your grandfather's Illuminates, that the Illuminates from Helldivers 1 had more capabilities, different types of attacks. You got to remember, is just like the bots and just like the bugs, we didn't see everything that they had on the first go around. There was other stuff that came in after the fact.
Yeah, those factory striders definitely weren't in at launch, and they came in later. The Shriekers, talked about the Shriekers, they were a post-launch add-on.
And the gunships.
So. Yep.
But we're happy that it's got kind of another kick to it, that they're actually doing stuff with the game to bring players back. But
they do need to be careful, because now there are all three factions are on the board, and you can't overwhelm players. Again, there's a lot of new players playing now, or a lot of people coming back to the game. But if those numbers start to die off, after a week, people are like, okay, well, we played the Illuminate, we've seen this, we're going to move on to something else again. They need to make sure that they're not overwhelming us with tasks, because there's only so many people to play, and managing between three factions can be a lot.
Yeah, but it's something that they have a little experience doing with Helldivers 1, and now they have even more players. Even if it's at their what it's been over the last couple months, just a couple thousand players, 10,000 players, whatever it was, playing the game. I think, that gives them more leeway than what they did or had recently on Helldivers 1. So I think they got some tricks up their sleeves still. And with that, we're going to move on to listener questions. Tricky did put up the post today, and we got just a couple, nothing major, but it will have to deal with our topic of the week. So kind of rewinding a little bit, because of the Game Awards and everything, we're going to do that as the topic of the week this week, which is why we're skipping any news. I told Tricky, I said, trying to look for news in this week's stream was really difficult with all the Game Award stuff, because that in and of itself is news. So we're just going to go over listener questions first, and then we will hit the Game Awards. All the awards, all the reveals, the fun stuff. First question coming from Will says, what do you all feel were the biggest travesties at the 2024 Game Awards? And he puts up a meme saying hint, and it's the old meme of Kanye jumping on stage with Taylor Swift. Said, I'm gonna let you finish, but Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is the greatest fighting game of all time. Because in that category, Tekken 8 won, and he's indicating that Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection is, the one that should have won. And I actually align this with the remakes and the DLCs, that they should not be eligible for these type of awards, because essentially all it is just re-releasing the collection on updated hardware. How do you guys feel?
I agree with that. DLC and remakes, no.
It's kind of hard, because I guess people want to recognize. I understand where Matt's coming from, and I actually don't disagree with him. But they want to recognize, stuff like Marvel vs. Capcom, a collection that is popular and people have been waiting for. So they want to recognize the greatness of those games. But then also you have to kind of take into account that Tekken 8 was actually released this year, and it's these other games were developed years ago and then just now put out. When you re-release them, you're not wildly, you're not wildly redoing them. They were made in a different time. Now, remakes are kind of built from the ground up, so it's kind of a gray area, but, I mean, maybe just have a remix category. I don't know. I feel like Game of the Year or these different things should consist of things that were made and released for this year, using the technology that we have now to make games.
And again, just throwing games into a collection and releasing it should not make you eligible for whatever category that is. Yeah, they're great games. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 certainly is one of the best fighting games ever, but don't throw it in a collection and say, yeah, we should win best fighting game. And again, not that was their intent. Obviously, the Game Awards are done by, multiple panelists and suggestion of who wants what. I just don't think a collection should beat out something that was new this year, even though Tekken 8 is the 8th game in the series and not necessarily new in and of itself. It was new to us. It was new this year.
Although I don't also disagree with Will's assertion that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is better than I've never played a Tekken game that was better than Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I'll say that.
Agreed. Well, maybe Tekken Tag. Close, but no cigar.
No. I mean, I think for the roster and everything and just the mechanic, no, I think Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is better. Not saying I don't like Tekken. I don't like Tekken, but I think the last Tekken I played was Tekken 5, and I mean, it was fine, but I mean, if you're like, hey, Alex, which fighting game are you going to play for the rest of your life? It's like, well, I'd rather play Marvel vs. Capcom, I guess.
I agree. Redbeard Rick, if you could have anything you want for Christmas, what would it be? $100 limit. Well, that eliminates anything that I want for Christmas, and now you're limiting me to just certain things I want for Christmas. I don't know. It was actually a struggle this year to come up with stuff, because I kind of have bought myself or gotten all the things I want and or need. I don't know. I don't even think like a DualSense Edge is under 100, right?
Don't believe so.
Not that I want one. I can't think of anything else. I have the controllers I want. I got the keyboard, the mouse setup. I don't think any new microphones are going to help that are under $100. You guys have anything on your list?
Well, I'm a bit more simple in my taste, Matt. I'll take Mario Party Jamboree, which I know you already own, so you can't be getting that. But I'll take Mario Party Jamboree and a cheap pair of third-party Joy-Cons. Because I paid $80 for some fucking Joy-Cons with their busted-ass bullshit.
Way to go, Nintendo.
Yeah, fuck up. Fuck you, Nintendo.
For $100, man, I don't know.
I mean,
a game yield, like, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of
No, because
what games are out there, but
I mean, I guess I'd
you
pick.
can't even say you're a PlayStation Plus Premium. That's over.
I guess I'd pick
$100.
up. I guess I'd pick up Astro Bot and find another game under 50.
I mean, if I'm going to my Amazon wish list here, I'm looking at probably the Hori Split Pad Pros, the Charizard and Pikachu version, and probably a case to now hold the Switch with the Pros attached. I think that puts me under 100. All right. Curtis writes in, what was your favorite world premiere at the Game Awards? And he says his were Ninja Gaiden, Rage Bound, Onimusha, and Intergalactic. If you guys, I know, Yield, you mentioned that you really don't watch the Game Awards anymore. Alex, did you have anything that was revealed that you were interested in?
I'm pretty sure that this game was shown off at the Game Awards, but was the sequel to Okami announced?
Yes.
Yeah, that. Very
Okay.
much that. Because I know, obviously, Okami Den is considered a sequel to Okami, but, I mean, that was on a handheld device, one of the handheld consoles, one of the 3DSs, so... Or one of the... I can't remember which exactly Nintendo handheld console was on, but a full-fledged console, home console, Okami sequel, thank God. Yes. It is about top... You know, we got a Psychonauts sequel in recent years, and now we're getting an Okami sequel? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, Clover Studios died out after Okami. Like, they were done. And then this, out of fucking nowhere, this franchise comes back. I love it. You gotta fucking... You know what? Geoff Keighley... I'll give Geoff Keighley a nice thumbs up for that. Thank you, Jeff.
So, Yield, was there anything that you heard that was announced that piqued your interest?
Off the top of my head, no. I mean, even the new Naughty Dog game, I was just kind of like, meh, from what I saw of it.
Okay, well, maybe when we go into the announcements, there may be something that we remind you of that piques your interest. So, you know, like I mentioned, is our topic of the week this week is going to be the Game Awards, and we're going to split it into the two sections, and with the priorities that Geoff Keighley seems to show it as well. So we're going to do awards first and announcements second, you know, capstone the show with all the announcements that occurred. And again, we're just going to kind of cover some of the more popular awards. We are not going to go into esports and esport athlete and esport game or content creator, because frankly, you know, from a content creator perspective, I didn't hear the trophy horse being nominated. So I'm
we
gonna
are, yes, content creators. We do put out a weekly podcast.
I'm going to protest that category. The one thing I'll put up,
Yields talks so much shit about the Game Awards that Geoff Keighley, he's like, Geoff Keighley, of course, a weekly listener of Trophy Horse.
we must get blacklisted.
He's like, fuck those guys. Yields sitting there talking shit about the Game Awards, and Alex doesn't watch, so fuck them.
Could be.
So the first category I'll bring up here is the player's voice, which is 100% player voted categories. And this was Black Myth, Genshin, Shadow of the Erdtree, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero. And I think we all kind of knew Black Myth was going to win this one, just by the sheer number of players of a certain geographical area that would be voting for it. Is that surprising to you guys, or is it, you know, in line with what we were thinking?
No, that sounds about right. A lot of people love Black Myth.
Very popular game. Matt, were you referring to China when you were talking about voting?
You know, sold gangbusters over there.
Well, it's also about Chinese mythology, so...
Yeah,
And
makes
there
sense.
are a lot of people in China. They have huge population, and I'm sure plenty of those people play games, so I'm sure there's a lot of pride in that game and how well it turned out and the depictions. I would assume. I haven't polled the Chinese, but I would assume there's a lot of pride in having their mythology shown and shared with the world. So, and again, I mean, Western audiences loved it too. It's not like it's like only popular in one place. Like it was popular all over the world. So, it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. Next up, we're covering most anticipated game, which on the show that Tricky, Alex, and I were on, I called for Wilds. Both Tricky and Alex called for Ghost of Yotei. But we all kind of knew that Grand Theft Auto 6 was going to come away the winner on this one. When not that it's saying it's a most anticipated 2025 game, I still have my doubts of whether this comes out in 2025. But needless to say, people felt Grand Theft Auto 6 was a bigger release than Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yotei, Metroid Prime 4, or Monster Hunter Wilds, which kind of makes sense in the end.
I mean, there's a lot of people still all ooh-ah over Grand Theft Auto. No, I'm not saying it won't be worth it. But, I mean, out of those two, or out of the list that's on here, I'm getting Grand Theft Auto 6, but I'm more excited for Ghost of Yotei than I am Grand Theft Auto 6.
Very few games can sell very well on multiple generations of consoles. I mean, the sales of Grand Theft Auto 5 carried over multiple generations, and just most games can't even accomplish that. Even, even like a Zelda game or a Mario, I mean, granted, they may not be available on multiple consoles, but you think of the list of, and I don't even know what other games besides, maybe a Fallout game or, I'm trying to think, no, not Fallout, Skyrim. That's another game. The list of games that sell well multiple times over on multiple consoles is just, it's a very short list, and Grand Theft Auto is like the one franchise that you can kind of guarantee that it'll be there for multiple consoles. Given the way we've seen how they sell games and resell games and resell games.
Yeah, and again, for me, Wilds is more anticipated than Grand Theft Auto 6, but obviously I don't speak for the majority in this case. Best adaptation. Fallout beat the likes of Arcane, Knuckles, Like a Dragon Yakuza, and Tomb Raider Legend of Lara Croft. I feel this definitely deserves it. I never watched Arcane, and the others didn't build up the hype like Fallout did, so I'm not surprised, and I'm actually very happy with this one.
Well, also, you've got it on Amazon Prime, which is a huge video streaming service, so it has the marketing of Amazon behind it. I'm not saying the show wasn't good. The show was good, and they were smart in that you didn't have to play all the Fallout games. You could just jump in, watch it, and be perfectly satisfied. You didn't have to watch. You didn't have to play all the games to get it. So, huge streaming platform, a lot of promotional material behind, or a lot of promotional power behind it, and the fact that the show was good. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Yield, any thoughts?
I didn't know the other 4 outside of Fallout had an adaptation this year. So,
all right.
that speaks volumes.
And here we go, boys. This is our category, Best Multiplayer Game. Helldivers 2 beating out the juggernaut that is Call of Duty. Super Mario Party Jamboree, which I'm not surprised. Tekken 8, which when you consider multiplayer, barely qualifies. And then Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. Again, I felt it was appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't tried the Warhammer multiplayer yet, but yeah, Helldivers. Game of the year for me this year.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise with how quickly that game just ascended into the heavens and just kind of shocked the gaming world. I mean, some of these things like Black Myth Wukong, I don't think people saw coming when it comes to its popularity, but a lot of other things you could kind of guess, you could kind of see coming. You could kind of see Astro Bot was going to be really popular, but Helldivers, given the fact that it was the sequel to a game that was popular but had a long lifespan in regard to people who would play it, but not an explosive popularity, and for the sequel to come out in the way it did, I just don't feel like a lot of people saw that. Not to mention the fact that the game is a lot of fun, and you now with this recent update have hundreds of thousands of people still playing it since the release at the end of February. I mean, it's an astounding achievement for that for Arrowhead.
And this is after their downturn back in May because of Sony's shenanigans. So I think that's just a testament to how fun this game actually is.
And to be able to find a game very easily with 4 players, it's in that cooperation you get with 4 players, as opposed to a fighting game, which is 2. And Jamboree. I mean, Jamboree, I'm sure, is a fun multiplayer experience, but for the amount, like, Jamboree is a game that you will play with family members, you will play with friends at family gatherings. Like, you'll play to get-togethers, but you're not going to sit there and play it every day. This was a game in Helldivers that people spent hours playing every day. So I think that says something where Mario Party's more situational. Helldivers is, damn, I'm going to go jump in and take down the Terminids and the automatons for a good 4 to 6 hours.
After my friends take me out first. Which all built into some of the fun. That was really kind of like the determining factor there. Is not only was it a game that you could just easily jump in and play with friends, but it was entertaining too. Even when your friends kill you.
Yes.
Jumping around, we covered Best Fighting Game, Tekken 8, Beat Out, Grand Blue, Fantasy vs. Rising, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which is the only other one that I thought had a really good chance at it this year. Then there was also Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, and then Multiverses. Now, Multiverses being WB's darling that is failing horribly, so I didn't think any of these had a real chance. Tekken 8 being the most pure fighting experience there.
Yeah. I mean, Tekken, obviously, we've gotten to Tekken 8, so this is a game series that blossomed on the original PlayStation. So people had a chance to grow up with it, play Tekken 3, it has followed on every single console since, so it makes sense that it still has a huge following. But yeah, again, the Marvel vs. Capcom collection may be hampered in some people's minds, because even if it is thrown in the category, and we may see this in Game of the Year as well, a lot of people will probably vote being like, that doesn't deserve to be here, I'm going to vote for this. So even if it is thrown in there and considered, you may have a certain section of the audience who's just like, I'm not voting for that because it's not from this year.
Then we got Best RPG with Metaphor ReFantasio beating out the likes of Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I don't know what your thoughts are on the Yield, especially on Persona and all those things, but Metaphor is basically Persona not set in school. So
less creepy?
Less creepy, yeah. But there's animal people too, so maybe more creepy in that aspect. Yield, you feel anything else should have beaten Metaphor?
I can't say, because RPGs aren't really my wheelhouse.
All right, Alex.
Just real quick, real simply, it was a nominee for Game of the Year, and none of those other games were. So it just seems like when you're the Game of the Year nominee and you're the only one in your category, kind of seems like you should win.
Heard that before. Speaking of Game of the Years, Best Action Adventure Game went to Astro Bot when it was up against Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, which I wouldn't classify as an action adventure game.
It's one hell of an adventure where you shit your pants 10 times over, but...
Star Wars Outlaws and Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I see no illegalities here. I'm very happy that Astro Bot got the first of many recognitions that it deserved.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it, but also, like, the fact that, I mean, you really seem to like Echoes of Wisdom. I don't know, like, I think you can make an argument for that, not just because it's a Zelda game, but, I think that when you have a series like Zelda that's been around for as long as it have, whenever you can innovate and still make it interesting and fun to play, I'm actually a little surprised that didn't win. Not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I think because it's not a pure Legend of Zelda adventure is kind of what set it apart, but like the execution in some areas can be rough, and that's why I think Astro Bot really is the better choice in that aspect. And that's coming from me. Yo, do you play any of these?
Well, I mean, I just started playing Outlaws, so I really can't, compare them to anything else. I'm just a lot of times with categories like this, I sit back and think, are the games in those categories the right games? I question is Astro Bot an action adventure game? But then I don't know what I would classify it as. I definitely
platformer family.
Yeah, I would kind of go more of the family game, but an action adventure, I just don't put.
I think action.
In that spot.
I think action. There's combat. There's mechanical moving around. Adventure is exploration and finding things and trying to complete goals. That's what I kind of take an action adventure. My problem is the next category when you talk about best action game, because then you have the winner as Black Myth Wukong, and then up against Call of Duty, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer. And I go, okay, why would Black Myth not be an action adventure game? Certainly adventure.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. See, to me, Black Myth Wukong is an action/adventure game.
Yeah. So, Alex, you were saying?
No, I mean, that was going to be my question, is why wouldn't Black Myth be in this category? And it seems like there's too many subgenres that step on each other's toes. It feels like they need to cut down the number of genres they consider for these awards. Just do an action game. Because when you say adventure game, it almost feels like it should be like a Monkey Island, right? Like a point-and-click adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like blending blurring the colors, blurring the lines, making it more confusing you're making it more confusing by having action adventure as opposed to just action.
Let's make a category where we can put 5 different people in so that way they can be nominated.
Which, now leads us to the next categories was best independent game, best debut indie game, and then as a side effect, because Balatro won both of those categories, Balatro also won best mobile game. Up against things like, Animal Well, which received a lot of positive coverage this year. But I don't think any of it met what Balatro was. I don't think either of you have even played or looked at Balatro, right?
I've seen the cover art on the PSN, that's it. Out of these games that are listed, I'm interested in Pacific Drive and The Plucky Squire.
Yeah, makes sense.
Played me some Plucky Squire. I don't know. As much as I enjoy the Plucky Squire, I just don't know that I would ever consider it strong enough of a game to be the best of the year of a category. Like, even like best indie game, best debut indie game. It was really good, but I don't think I could put my vote towards it.
I would have to see how many other indie games were out there. Was it a really small... I'm not trying to say this as a slap to Plucky Squire, but, from what I'm going off of what Alex is saying. Was it a really small pool of games, and that was just the best of what was out there?
And again, you're going up against a Game of the Year nominee in Balatro, so that should just swing everything to Balatro, regardless of... Because if Plucky Squire is not up for Game of the Year, it obviously wasn't as strong of a contender as Balatro, so Balatro wins by default.
Correct. I agree.
Then, circling back to Helldivers 2 winning best ongoing game against the likes of Destiny 2, which we know has struggled recently. Maybe their last DLC was pretty good. Diablo 4, which is just starting to get into that idea of being an ongoing game. Final Fantasy 14, which is basically on here every year. And Fortnite, which is that juggernaut that you thought wouldn't be stopped. But again, Helldivers 2, they've... Good.
Oh, I was going to say, where's Suicide Squad and Concord?
Because this is best best ongoing game.
Oh, you
one
said
is
best.
not a
Okay.
yeah. One of them is not best, and one of them is not ongoing.
Well,
And technically, the former is not going to be ongoing very much longer.
well, still playable, but just not new content.
Yes, folks. The news came out that season 4 of the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is going to be the last DLC. And remember what I said, gents? How many seasons is this going to go?
Did you say 4? I couldn't remember if it was 4 or 3.
I said 4.
I'm thinking he said 4.
Tricky was, and I were going back and forth because this is like season 4, episode 8. And he's like, well, 8's more than 4. I said seasons. I didn't know episodes were a thing. So I'm still right.
You go by the characters they add. There's 4 characters,
Yeah.
right?
It's the seasons.
That's
yeah.
what you go by. Yeah, 4 characters.
Speaking of characters, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 had a win in Best Performance by Melina Juergens, who plays Senua. And, you know, compared to Hannah from Life is Strange, Brianna White, who was in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I believe that's Aerith. Humberly Gonzalez, who played Kay Vess in Star Wars Outlaws, and Luke Roberts, who played, God, why am I blanking on his name? Who the hell's the lead of Silent Hill 2? James Sunderland. Yeah. Wow. Good job, Matt.
Yeah, Senua's really got... I haven't played Senua Saga. Haven't had the opportunity to, but what I played from... No, you mean the first game, Hellblade.
The first game, yes. So good.
Yeah. Senua's Sacrifice.
Make sure you play it with headphones on.
You got to really throw yourself into that role to be successful and to make it believable, so you kind of have to be able to have some acting chops for that.
And then Senua Saga also got a game award for best audio design. And, you know, we don't need to spend a lot of time on audio design. There's different things that go into that, but Astro Bot was here as well. And, you know, the things that they did with that and the controller, I felt were genuine, but Hellblade is kind of known for its audio design.
Oh, heck yeah.
You know, I have the first one on VR, haven't touched it yet. Told that's what I have to do. Jumping up, this was, what did we have? Nope, that's best narrative. This was another one that we tried to guess on, and I said I wanted Senua. No, why did I have Senua? It doesn't make sense. I don't know. I think I was rebelling against Final Fantasy VII being on here, as well as Silent Hill 2, because best narrative is something that's already been written.
Their remake. So yeah.
But Metaphor ReFantazio won best narrative, which again, they know what they're doing with those games. Best game direction was Astro Bot against Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor, which leads us into Game of the Year. And as we mentioned before, Astro Bot won. And again, you had the pool of them, Balatro, Black Myth, Elden Ring,
DLC.
Final Fantasy VII, remake, and Metaphor. So evidently, Sven, the lead of Larian Studios, was the one making the announcement. And unfortunately, as a bit of negative culture, when Astro Bot was announced the winner, evidently there might have been some translation issues or whatnot, but the Baldur's Gate 3 page on Steam started getting flooded with negative reviews with a lot of Chinese writings on there. So there may have been some contention about Black Myth not winning. And again, you know, I was reading that there might be some translation issues where there might have been some unintended insults being thrown around. But Astro Bot won Game of the Year, and I've said time and time again, this is a game-ass game between the platforming, the action, the collectibles, the personality, the just everything built in the game. I don't see how any of the others were beating it this year. Alex, you feel any different?
No, I mean, I think I called this.
Astro Bot.
You were the only one out of you, me, and Tricky to call it.
Okay. So, I mean, it essentially is Sony's Mario, and that formula has worked really well for Nintendo. Now, I'm not saying that Astro Bot's going to go on to have the success that Mario has, but you think about it, from a visual, like, just looking at the games, you would think that Astro Bot is a game that appeals to everyone. Or at least most people, whereas Black Myth appeals to a lot of people, but it's obviously, there's a different audience for it, and I think that audience would be smaller than for Astro Bot. Now, granted, Black Myth may have more sales, I don't know, but the kind of game that Astro Bot is, you would think would appeal to a greater age range. You know, kids could play it, families could play it, people like us, you know, adults who grew up playing, you know, this, that, and whatever could play it. So, I mean, I think that Astro would have a wider appeal, and generally those games, like, they do really well and stuff like this. And, I mean, you know, yes, Sekiro Shadow Dies Twice, Elden Ring, games that very appeal to a very adult audience that likes a stiff challenge, like, they have won in the past. So, I mean, there's, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if Black Myth won, but Astro Bot's just one of those games that has a wide range and appeal, and again, as a game that you get a very Mario feel from. I don't know, it just makes sense as winning the game of the year. Also, highest rated game of the year. Like, it's, you follow the clues and it just seems like, hey, this is your winner. And again, I'm sure there are we're not the only ones. A lot of the voters probably said, when it comes to Shadow of the Air Tree, because I would like to know how the voting, like, broke down and how the games ranked as far as votes. But I guarantee that the expansion, like the whole argument of this shouldn't be here because it's an expansion or it's an add-on, definitely hurt Shadow of the Air Tree.
And if it was all about sales, you wouldn't see something like Balatro be on there. And this is where I talk about a game being a game. It's got, to be game of the year, it's got to be well put together, well thought out, good in controls, good in audio. It's got to do all of the other categories well. Maybe not necessarily the best, but it's got to do them well. It's got to put them together in a good package. Yield, anything you disagree with there?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not a fan of, you know, the remake and the DLC being on there for Game of the Year. So, not taking anything away from Astro Bot, but I felt that when it was announced that, you know, that it was a 2-horse race out of 5 horses. 6 horses, sorry. And it was, you know, Astro Bot or Black Myth. And I'm just, you know, because I don't know much about Balatro, so I'm not trying to throw shade at that or metaphor. But I'm like, you threw in a DLC and a remake for Game of the Year. Come on, man. There are plenty of games out there. You could have easily, in my opinion, thrown Helldivers 2 in there. Just because of what it did this year. And, you know, people are still, you know, playing it. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised Astro Bot won. From everything I've heard from you and Tricky, you know, and what you've seen online. I was disappointed at their selection of votable games this year.
Yeah, and again, you know, we haven't disagreed that it needs to be a separate category for DLCs and remakes, and to help really,
absolutely,
yeah, to separate them and give other games a chance to shine, not standing on the shoulders of other great games in the past. But those were the categories, and like Geoff Keighley, we are going to promptly ignore them for the real attraction of the show, all the announcements. And we're not going to go over every single announcement. I just want to pick out a couple that I found really interesting and, you know, talk about that, you know, in the link I provided you guys if you want to take a look over at it while I discuss some of the things that I saw. Definitely pick out some of the ones that you're looking at. But for me, first and foremost, Slay the Spire 2, and I know Rick is as happy as anybody else. And yes, us on PC Master Race are going to get it a little earlier via early access before it comes to consoles in 2026, I think is what they're thinking. But there was a little bit of trolling at the end of the trailer where it said coming in 202 and the last number kept fading in and out, and it said 5. So that way they put us there. Dave the Diver is getting a DLC, perhaps, called Dave the Diver in the Jungle. Not sure what's going to be there. Didn't show a lot. Also looking at, they had a trailer for The Witcher 4, which shows Ciri as the main protagonist. And the internet does what the internet does and says, she looks different. She looks uglier than the first game. Women can't be witchers, not according to lore. And as a result, they are, planning on protesting the game. I'm excited for another Witcher. Don't care who I get to play. I'll have fun with that. Elden Ring, Night Reign is announced, which is going to be a co-op game, standalone Elden Ring experience where they say it's going to kind of be a little roguelite, where you're going to be able to co-op with friends and go out and hunt bosses, basically. Kind of like a Monster Hunter. Split Fiction is the newest game from Hazelight Studios. Jose Fares, who likes to drop F-bombs on stream and did so. But his previous games, It Takes Two and No Way Out, this plays very much the same, where you're going to play one of two girls. One loves fantasy, one loves sci-fi, and that's going to mix and match how the story folds out. I'm actually really excited for this one, and it's going to play just like the other ones, where one player has it and they have a friend pass, and you give that friend pass to somebody and you both can play together. Let's see. Borderlands 4 had an announcement, and I am severely underwhelmed with what it looks like. The Vault Hunters look generic. I am not happy, so probably going to be waiting on that one. Then there is also Turok Origins, which is coming back and evidently might be co-op, so that could be entertaining. Then Onimusha Way of the Sword, a brand new Onimusha. Joe Priestley is going to be very happy with this, so I am too. I loved Onimusha back in the day, so I'm excited there. Then I'm not excited for it, but I'm glad Alex is. But the Okami sequel is going to be fun. And finally, Naughty Dog gave us a trailer of their new game, new IP that they've been working on, Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, which again, the incels out on the internet are out there protesting the game's protagonist because they don't understand how game design works. But I am excited for those. Alex, do either one of you want to go first on items that you found exciting?
It's always glad to see Tecmo back in the gaming industry. So I have not seen the trailer yet for the new Ninja Gaiden. More Dave the Diver is always good. Let's see here. Where was the... I'll have to look up Split Fiction because I enjoyed it in No Way Out. I was the same way, Matt. Borderlands 4, I watched the trailer and I was just kind of like, yeah, you're going to have to sell me. That or I'm going to pick it up super cheap.
What gets me is that all the others, and it started happening with Borderlands 3. Borderlands 1 and 2, there was a very distinct, like, you look at the Vault Hunters, you kind of got the idea of what they were just looking at them. I don't know what any of these do.
They look like some of the baddies from 3.
I agree. There's a siren in the mix, I guess.
Let's see here. Never played the first Okami, so I need to do that. I said we got another game, a more in-depth gameplay trailer for Mafia: The Old Country. I've enjoyed the Mafia games, so that'll be something. I watched the trailer for Intergalactic, and it, to me, and this is going to be a hot take, it looked like a fancier No Man's Sky.
See,
just from what I saw, I need to see more. I'm not shelving it, but I'm just like, I didn't see anything that made me go, day one.
See, I took it as a higher production value Starfield.
Okay.
Just like they actually care about how their people look and act. But the Porsche branded spaceship.
Yeah, that can't be true. I noticed that too in the trailer. I was like, wait, did that say Porsche?
Kind of set me off. I'm like, do we really need that?
And I wonder if this main character is any relation to Michael Knight. Did anybody else get that vibe from the jacket? Because I sure did.
Maybe the ship will talk to her. All right, Alex?
As much as I would like to say that Sonic Racing Crossworlds looks enticing, I mean, I like my mascot kart racers, but Sonic as a whole, the whole Sega mascot thing, just not as strong of an appeal as Nintendo or, Crash Bandicoot. I don't know. I want to give another Sonic Racing game a chance, but I just don't know if I can. Obviously, Okami, I mentioned before, I'm a huge fan of that series, and unless they completely bungle this, given the fact that Hideki Kamiya is at the head of this, I don't think they will. But
let me ask you this: what do you think about the fact that they just announced it as Okami sequel, not like giving any real details behind it?
Honestly, I don't give a shit. It's official now, so I don't give a goddamn shit.
Okay, fair enough.
This is something we thought would never happen, so I'll take what I can get at this point, Matt. I'm not picky.
Okay.
Obviously, very early in production as well. That's what I take from it. They don't have anything to show off because it's very early in production. Mafia: The Old Country, everyone always says positive things about Mafia, so who knows? Maybe that's a game that I can. That's on the radar. That's not a must buy. That's not. I have experience in this, but I'm excited. But it's definitely one of the ones that's like recommendations wise. A lot of people would probably recommend the series to me, so I'll keep my eye on it. Really haven't seen much on Intergalactic, but I don't think I've ever not bought a Naughty Dog new IP. I think I've bought them all, or at least played them. So, given the fact that how many of Naughty Dog's games I've played, kind of a safe bet that I'll at least give this one a shot. The only other thing that looked appealing was Stage Fright, which might be a little surprising considering it's from the people who made Overcooked. But it is a co-op game, and on GameSpot here it reads, Overcooked Studio reveals Stage Fright, a co-op escape room game inspired by Luigi's Mansion. It deals with aliens, and it's a split world, so the co-op, what one person does in one area affects the other person as well, and how they play. So I'm not going to say that Luigi's Mansion references carries it. I do like the art style quite a bit. But we'll see. If it's me and Ashley have to do it together in co-op, I mean, we've made it through some games, but we also do tend to argue a lot when we play co-op games, depending on what the style of the game is. Overcooked, certainly. But, I mean, Stage Fright, I like the look of it. I like the fact that they took inspiration from Luigi's Mansion. I like the involvement of aliens. That could be another one on my radar that actually turns out to be a nice little game.
Yeah, and I think this year I would still rate it a pretty decent year for the Game Awards on their reveals. Elden Ring, specialized game coming out of nowhere. Naughty Dog, there was always rumors about that they were working on something. Didn't know what it was until this. I didn't even hear rumors of what it was going to be before then.
I think the last thing I had heard it was going to be something space.
See, I didn't even come at that. One thing none of us touched on, but it is exciting for me, a new Virtual Fighter coming, and that's really cool. And Ryuga Goto also has something else called Project Century coming out, which is kind of like an old style Yakuza, kind of like an old style Mafia, just in the Yakuza set. Steel Hunters is another multiplayer PvPvE type game. Project Robots. There was a ton of announcements this year, and I think they did really well, kind of, giving us an idea of what's to expect in the future. Whereas 2023 was an awesome year for gaming, 2024 was okay. I think 2025 and on are really gonna come in their stride. So I was happy with it. Either of you have anything to say before we close everything up?
No, not really.
No?
I mean, I thought I mean, I know people crack on the Game Awards, but I thought they had some pretty good announcements this year. We got to see Naughty Dog's new game. We got to see an Okami sequel. There were other popular series like the return of Onimusha. We saw the continuation of Mafia. So a good mix of, perpetual franchises, but also the revitalization of some old franchises that people really like. So, I mean, I thought the reveals were pretty good.
All right, with that, we'll close out the show and do some shout-outs. Yield, you want to hit us up first?
Shout out to Alex and Matt for recording. Shout out to Tricky for finally getting moved out. Shout out to all the pimps and the madams of the whoredom. Thank you for downloading, listening, hanging out with us. Shout out to everybody who was hanging out in stream and sent in some questions. Shout out to everybody who took time to wish me happy birthday on Facebook this week. That's it. Oh, and everybody have a Merry Christmas.
All right, Alex?
Give a shout out to the listeners, the fuel to the fire, the Trophy Horrors, our awesome community. Thank you all for continuing to support us. We appreciate you all so very much because it's the entire reason we continue to do this. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Thank you all very much. Hopefully everyone has a happy and safe holiday season. I assume we're doing a show next week, but obviously next week is also the week of Christmas, so who knows? We'll keep you guys updated. But also want to give a shout out to Rick and to Sid, both of who wish me a happy birthday. Appreciate you guys. Well, a lot of people in our chat as well. Riley, Nitro, Homer, Yield, and Tricky all wish me a happy birthday as well in our text chat. So appreciate you guys as well. Give a shout out to Matt and Yield for recording tonight. Shout out to Tricky, who is trying to get his shit together, trying to pull his life together. He's got a lot going on, but we look forward to having him back on. Hopefully next episode, but whenever we can. Last but not least, give a shout out to my awesome and loving girlfriend, Ashley. I love you, hon. Who I gotta give her credit. I did not expect this. I've never had a surprise birthday party before, but she managed to pull off a pretty dynamite one yesterday for my 40th birthday. So I know she's been busy with school, doing a lot of stuff, but she managed to pull it off, and without me ever knowing about it. So thank you, hon. Love you. And yeah, that's going to be it for me.
And I'm going to start my shout-outs with apologizing, not wishing Alex a happy birthday. I had a very difficult weekend on my end, but that's no excuse. So happy belated, Alex.
I mean, it's kind of a good excuse. I don't know. Like I'm not gonna give you shit for it.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll try to do better next year. And shout out to everyone that was in chat tonight: Saber and Tricky and Will and Kalai. And also shout out to the Channel 3 community. We are closing Season 10 very soon. So never a better time to jump in other than when Season 11 starts. So if you haven't registered yet, go to channel3.gg to register to gamify your social media. Shout out to, I don't know who else, you gents for recording tonight and all the technical difficulties we had. And shout out to Tricky for everything he's doing in the background, trying to make sure the show keeps going despite him handling his move and everything else. And then finally, shout out to, well, even before then, shout out to Will for everything he does for helping out the show between thumbnails and some other art stuff. Shout out to Zelda in the background, who's being a nudge lately. And shout out to my wife, V, for everything she does. Thank you all, and hopefully we'll see you on the next episode of Trophy Horrors, episodes 653. Thanks for listening, everybody. Time for the Trophy Horse to eject.
See ya.
Later.
The theme song is Venus by the band Even off their album Zenith. Permission granted by the band and 12th Stone Records. You can find them on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/evenphilippines.